Welcome everyone to Weekly Wise tonight. We're so glad to have you. Just to begin tonight, as is our tradition, I will explain a little bit about what Weekly Wise is and then introduce our speaker. So Weekly Wise has been going on since April. Or was it March? I say April, but did we start in March?
End of April, yeah.
End of April. And so it's every Tuesday night at 8 o'clock, either live or you can watch online. And we started because we had a ridiculously large excess of Ben & Jerry's ice cream. And so we needed to figure out something to do with our ice cream. And we wanted to have it be something where it helps our business and something where we can add value to the community. And so we created this lecture series and have really enjoyed it. So that's how Weekly Wise came to be. And tonight it's my pleasure to introduce Dr. Mike Kennedy. And he is a doctor, a lawyer, and a state representative for Utah. The reason why we know and love him is because he's our family's doctor, and I'm grateful for him for playing that role and for being one that I like to go to instead of some of the other experiences I've had. So he's just going to share with us some inspiring messages from his life journey today, and I'm looking forward to it. So we'll bring it up.
Thank you. Thanks for buying Matt, Ben & Jerry's, and the family for allowing me to be here tonight. So my name is Mike Kennedy. It's a pleasure to visit with all of you and have the opportunity to not only share with you some wisdom, but also get some ice cream out of the deal. That'll be good for all of us. So I had a few things I wanted to do. I wanted to introduce myself generally to the audience and just kind of lay the foundation for who I am. And in some ways that really gets to the message. And the message is, by small and simple things, great things shall be brought to pass. And we can say that in other ways, and just saying that little things every day make a lot of difference in the long run. And prevention is better than treatment. Those are the two Weekly Wise. That's what I'm all about, is trying to prevent problems instead of treating the problems, and then making sure that we do the right things on a regular basis daily so we keep ourselves out of trouble. So I grew up in Michigan. I was number 2 of 7 children, and there were 5 brothers, 2 sisters. Thinking about the 5 boys and then the 2 girls, a lot of fighting going on, physicality with the boys. And being number 2, I was between big brother and then little brothers. And as a result of that, I had my share of beat downs, and also I unfortunately delivered my share of beat ups to other people in the family. Thankfully, we've grown up to the point where we won't do that sort of thing anymore. But we enjoyed being together as children, and I ended up learning a lot about prevention as a young man, because our family, being number 2 of 7, I was big enough to be aware of the responsibility of the family, but not big enough often to do anything about it. And our family struggled financially for most of the years that I remember growing up. And in those cases, for example, one of the things that we ran into in the case of prevention is that we had a kind of regular old family station wagon car, and in that case, at one point the engine blew up, and the message that I heard as a young man was that because we had not changed the oil in the car, now instead of having a $20 oil change requirement for the car, we had hundreds of dollars worth of engine repair on this car. And being a family that didn't have any money in the first place, I thought that should have been done a little better, but for whatever reason it hadn't gone so well. I presume it was the short term, we didn't have enough money to change the oil, and then long term we paid a lot more for that down the way because we didn't have a car for a while, fix the engine and all that sort of stuff. So that message, in addition to other financial messages, percolated through my mind, and I realized that I and we as people are better off if we try to prevent problems instead of trying to deal with them as they come up. And many problems when it comes to medical are actually fixable if we're willing to work on them on a regular basis. So I was number 2 of 7, and prevention became a big issue for our family as a result of our various issues that we ran into. And I studied in school. I always loved to read. I did at some point realize on the course of little things mean a lot that I love to learn. And I also, through that loving to learn, I did well in school, wanted to go to college, and I realized as I continued through college that my preparation in many ways reading books at home and trying to do my best at school. But that did lead me to other things that were positive. And I saw education as a day-to-day pattern and behavior where I wanted to learn on a regular basis, and that was leading me to success and, frankly, a different life than what my parents had suffered as they had a chance to grow up. And so I saw education as one of those things that if I was willing not only to learn but also to apply what I learned, then I would be better off long-term as a result. And learning is interesting because it's not like it can all come at once. It has to come little by little. And through that process of learning little by little, going through college, and I like that a lot, I decided I wanted to go to medical school, learned a little bit there. It took me 7 years to go through 4 years of medical school and 3 years of family doctor residency. And no way I could have done all that at once. In fact, I've thought a lot about, well, if I had to do it all at once, looking back, I probably would have said, no way, I'm not doing all this stuff. It was really, to be in medical school was pretty overwhelming in many circumstances, but I realized that if I just took it a day at a time, that things would go well. And so through the 4 years and then the 3 years, just little by little, I plugged away at that along with my family, and we were able to ultimately achieve some significant goals as a result of our efforts day by day to try to learn a little bit more each day. So following up on that, and I often get asked, why'd you go to law school? And it's an interesting question. It's kind of a long story, but to summarize on some level, I love that idea of learning, and frankly was finishing, I was a year or two into my residency and thought I want more, but I didn't know what the more was. And so in thinking about that, family doctors, there's not a lot of medical specialization that you can go into, like nephrology or surgery or other things like that. And at some point it settled in that maybe I should try something crazy like law school. And I thought, that's pretty interesting because the family doctor medical try to heal the individual. And I realized that laws influence all of us. And on some level, laws prevent problems in society, or at least they should. I've learned as a lawmaker that sometimes laws are actually creating problems, not always fixing problems, but it's one of those things that I think ideally laws actually should prevent problems and actually help us so we don't cause problems with one another. And the idea of going to law school really settled in. And at some point I asked my wife, I told her, I said, I think I might want to go to law school. And she said to me, not with me, you won't. And I said, really? And actually my jaw kind of dropped. I said, really? She said, no, actually, I'm just kidding. I would be willing to do that, which that's one of the things about little things mean a lot is there's no way I could have done anything that I've done without my wife. And she and I have been a team working together to accomplish the things that we've been able to do. And I'm really grateful for her and actually all my family. We've got 8 children and they're all great kids. And it's a privilege. Talk about little things mean a lot is to have a little one grow up, and then my oldest daughter's married and we have a grandbaby, and I have 2 in college still. Oldest one has graduated from college and so on. It's really neat to see the little ones come into their own and grow into big people and start to accomplish the things that they should accomplish. So that has been a really good example to me of how small things can become really big and amazing things as time goes by. So I spent the time preparing for the LSAT with the wife's permission, which was nice to have. And the law school admissions test is I think it was a 3 or 4 hour test that I took. And I said, all right, if I do okay on that, then I'll apply. And I did all right. So I applied. There's only one school. I said, I'm only applying to BYU Law School. And if I don't get in, I'm not going anywhere else because it must mean I'm not supposed to do that. And to BYU's chagrin, they admitted me and allowed me to continue through the process. And I started the first year, and I did the first year of law school. It's supposed to be a 3-year program. I did that in the first year full time, but after that, had a full-time family doctor job, and at the same time was going to school. So it took me 5 more years to finish a 3-year program. And as a result of that, so I'm one of the longer law students. It took me 6 years to complete a process that really should have just taken 3. But the same thing is slow and steady, little by little, the effort paid off in the long run. I learned the legal training that I needed and graduated from there in 2007 and decided to run for political office in 2011 and so on. There's more to the story than that. But I love the idea, so as a family doctor, mostly I think of myself as a family doctor, is the idea of trying to help people prevent problems is a real privilege for me. And I believe that one thing doctors really should do is teach their patients, and I hope the Parks family has felt that as I visited with them, is an effort to kind of take the medical training and give it to you. One of the things I feel is I paid a lot of money for that. I might as well give it away, and then I end up getting more value because I feel like more people have benefited from the education as I try to give that away. But in teaching people how to manage their own issues and take care of their own issues, ultimately I believe that we can help them to take care of themselves, which is, I think, what medical should do. I think that's what law should do, and I think that's what politics should do, is help people fix their own issues and not try to step in and make the fixes maybe that people don't need, but what we think sometimes that they need. So in the preventative circumstance, one of the things that I wanted to talk about, this does fit in, so prevention is better than treatment, and small things make a big difference in the long run, is that when it comes to prevention, I've come across, not through medical training, but just through experience with people, that there are 4 fundamental things, and they're pretty easy things that any small child can probably tell you are important for your health and well-being. But I call them the pillars of life. It's just a way for me to frame this idea. And when I think about this, what is the essential for life? It's really eating and drinking, breathing and sleeping, which is simple, it's plain. And frankly, it wasn't taught hardly at all in medical school, which I think is really interesting. We learned about how the lungs work and how the heart works. We studied anatomy and physiology. But how do people stay healthy? It's not just how this part does its thing in isolation. It's actually how the whole thing works together. And as I came out of medical school and started practicing, I realized that there's some real fundamental issues with people. And when I, over time, talking to them, finding the issues that they had, I realized that there were some real key issues, and often they revolved around eating, drinking, breathing, and sleeping, these fundamentals. So to give you some background about those, first off, without oxygen, most of us know that within 5 minutes we're dead. And we know we have to breathe. The interesting thing is, what if I take a little bit of air from you over 30 years? Just every day, just a little bit I take away from you. How do I do that? Well, that's what cigarettes do. And we know cigarettes have a long-term impact on people. It doesn't happen like that with the people when they smoke, but it definitely has an impact. And so thinking about cigarettes, it just takes away a little bit of your oxygen with every cigarette that you smoke, as well as cigars and things like that. So that has to do with breathing. And then one of the other things for all my non-smoking patients is, do they have sleep apnea, which is a big issue. There's a lot of us that will go to bed at night, and I've been on enough scout camps to know that there's a number of people that snore out there. And I'm sleeping in a tent with another guy who's sawing logs, and everybody's making fun of this guy. And actually, I've come to understand snoring, it's funny. And I remember the cartoons as a child making fun of the snoring and the tent billowing out and coming back in, and sort of the ground shaking and some of the snores. But the interesting thing is that what snoring can reflect is that people aren't breathing right through the course of the night. So if you take a 24-hour period, you're supposed to be sleeping for 8 of those hours, and during those 8 hours you get a small deficit of oxygen, there's going to be a price to pay. So breathing, if I took air absolutely from you within 5 minutes, you'd be dead, whereas food and drink, if I took those from you, it'd take days to weeks to actually die from those. So first off, the intensity of oxygen is really a big issue. Preventing problems often revolves around, how am I breathing? And that has a lot to do with, do you smoke? And if you don't, which a lot of my patients don't around here, then are you overweight? And most of my female patients get this, but when we carry extra weight and a woman's pregnant, it's harder to breathe in the form of the diaphragm is a dome-shaped structure in between the thorax and the abdomen. And to breathe well, the diaphragm needs to collapse and then come back up. Well, when there's more abdominal protuberance, then it's hard for that diaphragm to go all the way down and take a full breath. And many pregnant women describe that shortness of breath that they have. Well, I've got some male patients that are never going to deliver the baby that they should deliver. They got 50 extra pounds here, and it just stays there year after year. And as a result, these people don't breathe well, and it does compromise their oxygen over time. There's a price to pay for that. So why do I care about eating and drinking? Is that eating and drinking often relate to breathing. Depends on, of course, who you are and how you go about it. And then sleeping, and that has to do with sleep apnea. But each of those 4 things, if they're going well, then things generally are going to physically go well for the individual, for the patient. If those things aren't going well, there's going to be some big issues with that. And that brings me to Ben and Jerry's, which in fact, I, along with anybody else that's here, the only reason we come to the parks weekly wise is because we know there's ice cream, right? Let's talk about that for a minute, because breathing, if you're not smoking, great, then fine. If you need a sleep apnea evaluation, that's probably something good. But when it comes to prevention of problems, eating and drinking is fundamental. Let's talk about Ben and Jerry's versus an apple. I'd like to use these as an example. And by the way, this isn't to say that apples are all good and Ben and Jerry's is all bad or the other way around. But it is an interesting thing to think about. So if we take junk food, which I would generally classify, Ben and Jerry's is very high quality junk food. It is, and what are the characteristics of what we would classify as junk food versus something that's of nutritional value to us? And I learned this concept in a medical lecture, is you've got high nutritional value and low calorie, or high calorie and low nutritional value. It's interesting just to think about those splits. So when we think about an apple, for example, it depends on the size of the apple, but the apple is about 100 calories. But within that 100 calories is a lot of vitamins and minerals, pure water, as well as fiber, which the body's kind of made for all of those things. So it's lower calorie, at the same time it's higher nutritional content. So if you look at any food, and really the main way to generalize as far as junk food is if it's high in calories and low in nutritional content, that's when you start saying it's junk food, because it's just not providing what I'm eating to live in the form of nutritional value, vitamins and minerals, fiber and water, things like that. So the Ben and Jerry's, and I was checking on this, and I think chocolate chip cookie dough, we talked about that one, that's about 280 calories in a serving, depends on the size, of course. And one interesting dynamic with this, and I haven't, with the Pillars of Life, talked about exercise, I've just talked about eating, drinking, breathing, and sleeping, is that exercise is incidental. If you eat this many calories and only exercise this much, we all know how things are going to go. And what I've learned is that 100 calories is 1 mile running, roughly. And that's a good round number to think about. So if you think about 100 calories is 1 mile running, and you've got 2.5 to 3 miles of running and one Ben and Jerry's little pint of serving, you better get running if you're drinking or if you're eating much of that Ben and Jerry's. And the interesting thing about older people, and I'm a 46-year-old middle-aged man, so this is the world that I live in. It's hard for me to take the time to get out and run. I'm a slow runner. And I know Joel Wright, if he's part of the audience, he's a fast guy, so he's way faster and burns a lot more calories than I do if he's going to run. But it takes about 10 minutes or so for me to run a mile. For me to finish a Ben and Jerry's pint would take probably 5 minutes. So the interesting thing is that we can get those calories on board so quickly and so easily. And then it's one of those things that it's a lot of work to burn off. And if you've ever been on a calorie counting treadmill, you'll see that in running on the treadmill, it's kind of hard to burn those calories. It seems like I've been working really hard and I've only burned so many calories. And one of the calculation aspects of that is just, it's really hard to burn them off, the calories burned off, but it's really easy to take those in. So when it comes to prevention, and also simple things make a big difference, I love people to focus on these 4 fundamentals. How are you breathing? How are you eating? How are you drinking? And what's the sleep pattern like? Because if you're willing to look at those things and say, yeah, there's some areas to correct, that ultimately that's going to get you a long ways towards where you need to be. And then the prevention comes from when you don't carry extra weight, when you do breathe well, you'll save yourself a lot of the issues that come along from these things, and that includes the obesity, the high blood pressure, the diabetes, the heart disease, and ultimately the strokes, which the number one killer for all men and women is. For the women, a lot of ladies say breast cancer. It's not breast cancer, it's the number one killer for women, it's heart disease. Just like it is for guys. Cancer definitely is killing, but the fundamental and the biggest issue is really how's our hearts, and that has to do a lot with eating, drinking, breathing, and sleeping. So I am pleased to be an attorney and a family doctor. I'm pleased to learn these things over the course of my life, that little things do make a big difference in the long run, that if we're willing to focus on those little things, the simple, basic things, that ultimately we can not only do better in the short run, but we can prevent lots of problems in the long run as we do a better job with those things. And so, in sum, I want to say I'm here for the Ben & Jerry's, and I will take my Ben & Jerry's, and I will consume some Ben & Jerry's. It is not bad occasionally to have some of those kind of things. But we all know that, or we should know, that if we consume too much of that sort of thing, there's going to be an outcome. The outcome may be well down the way, but often we'll gain weight, we have problems with our health, and ultimately die earlier as a result of that. So it's a pleasure to be here in the Park household. Thank you for giving me a chance to share a little bit about my weekly whys, and I'd be happy to take any questions from the audience if they have them. If not, let's get some ice cream and get on to business.
I guess I'm just curious about how the state representative part did come along, and the short version after the doctor and lawyer bit happened.
So I love the idea of contributing to society and trying to help. My family has always been oriented towards how can we make our community a better place. And frankly, for me, I'm a conservative, and I think we're in a pretty good place, and I think we've actually been in a good place in the past. And instead of trying to make some Garden of Eden and make you people do a bunch of things, I'm actually trying to hold a lot of things back and stop a lot of the reforms that some people think are really great ideas. And so same idea as kind of a harebrained scheme that settled in my head. It was since 2007 in law school, I thought, well, okay, I got the doctor thing, and I love my job, and I enjoy doing what I do. I've got the backpack full of legal, something that I know. What should I do with this thing? But I didn't really know.
Yeah.
And I'd always liked politics and deep issues and complex problems. One of the reasons why I went to both law and medical school. And sometime around 2010, 11, I just started to think, maybe there is a role for me to play in this. So I just asked the wife, same thing, is that all right? I want to run for office, and she was willing to give her approval for that as well. And then we together started a campaign in 2012. We fought really hard. It was a vigorous campaign, and several worthy opponents that we fought against, and ultimately we prevailed, and it's been really a pleasure. The whole family's been up to the state capitol. And by the way, anyone in the audience or anyone in the Park family, if you guys wanted to come up to the capitol, it's a pleasure to take the family, especially the young ones, up and say, this is a voluntary citizen legislature. And little ones, when I talk to the 5th graders or the 10-year-olds, and I say, I need you to be prepared to take this seat that I'm in at this point, because I'm not going to be here forever. I'm already an old man. I'm getting older every day, and I need you to be prepared, thoughtful, and capable to come up here. So it's a time and it's an opportunity for me to step in and try to do what I can to make the world a little bit better, mostly to preserve the good stuff that we have and maybe correct or fix some of the things that maybe we shouldn't have done in the past. But do it for a time and then move back to regular life, which it's all good either way, but that was part of why this is about.
Cool.
Thanks for the question. Now, I guess it's your turn. Thanks.
All right. Thank you. So we really appreciate having you here. Thank you, Mike, Dr. Kennedy, Representative Kennedy, in your many titles. As I present, I've taken the opportunity a number of times to talk about what we're doing as far as our business is concerned, and I want to just kind of take a little bit of a different approach, I guess, than I normally do, because I've been feeling deeply the last few days some things that have just been kind of burning in me about where we're at in the world. I have some concerns, quite frankly, a lot of them, with the way and the shape of our society and where we're going and things I see in my observations. I'll start with one that I think is core, and that is victimhood. We have an epidemic in our society, from my perspective, my observation, of victimhood. Everyone, not everyone, but societally everyone loves to play victim. And actually, I think I could say everyone. Pretty much we all take different times and roles at moments where we take the role of being the victim. And we're all working through that, and that's great. But I fear that it's not that it's that society is rather, instead of working through that, is endorsing it. And that is something that is has been concerning me. It's just starting to burn inside of me, this idea of victimhood. Because victimhood, when you think about it, when we take on the role of victim, no matter what our circumstances are, when we take on the role of victim, what we're saying is, I need to self-justify to victimize someone else. When you think about a victim, when you think about, I'm going to play the role of victim, the reason we do it, there's two reasons that I'm aware of that we do it. The main one is to say, hey, I need to be able to feel like I can victimize you and feel justified to do so. So I got to be a victim to be able to be justified to do that. The second reason is because we don't want to take responsibility for the results in our lives. And so we want to blame someone because we're too afraid to take the responsibility for it. And so we're saying, you know what? I'm going to blame someone else. I'm going to make you a victim so that I can blame you, and then I don't have to look at myself and look at my own responsibility and the results that I'm creating. And we're seeing that all over. And the results of it, can you see the results of that this kind of thing creates in the world? I mean, look at, no offense to you're a great politician, I'm sure, but politics. It's all over the place. Look at the news. It's all over the place. Look at entertainment. Oh, heavens, don't look at entertainment. It's all over. That we are justifying these stories that we have, and we even justify them for each other. When you think about the conversations that go on, I mean, go to the gym. You do go to the gym, right? It's healthy. Go exercise. And if you just hear people talking about, oh, I can't believe she did this, or I can't believe he said that, and it's like this big story of victimization. And how does that help anything? How does that serve our planet? How does that serve the human race? It doesn't. It hurts. It tears. It does not create bonding, helpful relationships. And speaking of responsibility and epidemics, I think of money and finance. How often and how quick is the world to blame and be the victim of big corporations or of government that should have taken care of me, or my employer who shouldn't have fired me, or I just didn't get a good enough education and the world owes me a living. The world doesn't. Huh?
Insurance.
Insurance.
Let's blame insurance.
Yeah. I've never blamed insurance for anything. We live in this world of blame, and we don't take responsibility for anything when we're in that kind of space. Just a piece of evidence that drives me kind of batty. 2010, I looked up the census from 2010, the Social Security census. I don't remember exactly what document it was, but I was looking at the tables. At age 65, now this is the generation, if you think about this, is about 34 years, is that my math right? 36 years after ERISA was created. ERISA is the legislation that creates your retirement accounts, the 401ks, IRAs, all that kind of stuff, right? So 36 years later, this generation that was taught, hey, save, put your money in these accounts, you know, let's hoard your money. Like, they didn't say it there, like that wouldn't sell. So they said, save your money, and here's all this matching or whatever that we're going to give you to hoard your money. And, well, how's it turn out? Well, 50% of people, sorry, 2/3 of people at age 65 were living on Social Security for half their income. 50% of people were using it for 90% of their income. And almost 1 in 4, 100%. Now, Social Security, it's a lot of money, right? No. And not only that, it's dependence. I mean, yes, they paid money into it. Perhaps I'm paying their money into it at any rate. But it's dependence. How fulfilling is that to live on Social Security where nothing's, you know, it's just been given to you. You're not doing anything for it. There's no fulfillment. There's no meaning in that. And why is that? Well, I believe it comes down to we're asking a lot of the wrong questions. The quality of our questions determine the quality of our lives. And one of the questions that we're talking about, going back to the concept of victimhood and entitlement. What is the purpose of education? I love that question. What is the purpose of education? Is it training so that we can get a job and earn money? Is it, what do you want to be when you grow up? Is that the question? How about, what problem do you want to solve? If we're asking that question, it's no longer, oh, I wonder which job will get me the most money. It's, what do I need to learn to be able to do it? What do I need to learn to be able to live and share my gifts and make a mark on the world and have that fulfilling, meaningful life? Here's another one. What's the purpose of money? What's the purpose of resources on this earth? In society, but especially in your family or in your personal life. I'll tell you, the purpose of resources are to be used, not hoarded. That's not stewardship. Stewardship is not hoarding. It's not being wasteful either, but it's not hoarding. It's using the resources we have for the benefit of mankind, to create. That's what resources are for. And you wonder why the hoarding strategy didn't work. Because people were asking their own question. What were they asking? They're asking, do I have enough? Have I saved enough? Am I going to make it? What kind of a question is that? How about, how can I use my resources to make the world a better place and create an increase as a wise steward for myself as well? What kind of results would that have as a question and a focus? Different, right? The reason I bring this up, this is just touching on my why, right? We talk about weekly whys, and this for me, these are questions that have just been brewing inside me for a long time, and they're just, I don't know, coming to a head or something. The last few days, it's been burning in me. We need to ask better questions. A what to my why is the business that we're engaged in. We work with a company called Strongbrook. This is just one what to this why for me. And if this why resonates with you, then I invite you to look into Strongbrook that I'm going to tell you just a little bit about right now. And if not, that's fine. There's many ways to gain education. There are many ways to be a wise steward. I have found Strongbrook to be one source that has been excellent for me. First off, I have a free gift for everyone, and that is a free app. If you have an Android phone or an iPhone, you can pull it out and go to your app store and download, look in your store for an app called Strongbrook. It's free. STRONGBROOK. Download the app. You want to talk about education? Imagine people who have messages to share, like Dr. Kennedy, who have messages to share about whether it's nutrition and health, or whether it's about finances, whether it's about mindset, whether it's about relationships, you name it, who have honed their message, practiced, trained, lived their experience, and said, you know what? This is important to me. I've gained this. It's blessed my life. I want to share it. And I've donated this into one place. Many, many, many different trainers, mentors, donating their message into one place for you to access. That's what this app is. It is access to all these different people. Courses that they charge for, that you have access to a portion of them for free. Access to all of them is available for an upgraded premium subscription, but you get so much content there just for free. Education, there's some for you. Learn. Find out what sparks that fire inside of you. You can learn and live and improve your life. Strongbrook has its own flavor as well. It created this hub, and it has its own flavor as well called Limitless, that focuses on the beliefs that we go around with and this victimization that we go around with and how to step out of it. How do we take a look at how we're showing up and where we don't even realize we're blaming things on everyone else? And how do we take that power back to ourselves and that responsibility and own it and show up and create the results we want in our lives rather than blaming the world and everything in it that we didn't get the life that we wanted. I absolutely love what they have to offer. And they have a 3-day seminar that we can get you access to for $69, which for 3-day seminars for you and a guest, I mean, you don't find that. It's typically $4.99, and because of our connections, we can get it to you for $69.
When's the next one?
The next one is in January. It is January 21st through the 23rd. And lastly, I want to mention that there's a free event coming up on Wednesday evening, next week, Wednesday. So enjoy your Thanksgiving. And then on Wednesday, you can watch an event called Strongbrook Live. It's a 2-hour free webinar online. You can go to strongbrook.com/events to see more about it. And their focus on this is going to be all about being that wise steward financially. How do you take resources and use them? And their focus that they've honed in on is real estate, investing in real estate. Now, this is not education. We have come to a society where our investments generally are consumer-minded. When you look at the stock market, when you look at the things, your mutual funds you invest in, the things your 401k may invest in, it's consumer-minded. What I mean to say by that is you're owning paper assets. You might as well be gambling, quite frankly. Are you contributing to a business? Are you using your resources to help build a business? More often than not, no. You're throwing your money out there hoping it'll make money back, and the business that you're investing in often doesn't even know or care. If you're buying shares directly from a business, yeah, then you're investing in the business. You're giving them capital to grow. But most of us playing in the stock market, it's just a game. It's just gambling. That's not stewardship. That's not using our resources to create something. So if you want to invest in something, my belief, invest in hard assets. Invest in a business that you actually believe in and are giving seed capital to, or owning a part of that you can support. Or if you're going to own real estate, don't own shares in a REIT, an investment trust or something like that. Own the home, something you can control. Have your name on the property. Or instead of owning, shares in an oil company that's paper assets, same kind of thing, own the well. Did you know you can own an oil well? I mean, we don't even know that today. It's all consumer-minded. We've been sold as consumers to invest. That's not business ownership. That's not taking control. That's not taking stewardship. 100 years ago, over 90% of the population were entrepreneurs. Today, 90% plus of us are employees. I'm not saying it's bad to be an employee, not at all. There's lots of good that can be done by employees. But our mindset and our ownership has been lost in our country. Too often we are victims. We have our victim story. We are subject to the business owners, the CEOs of the world. Too often we don't take the ownership to live our own dream, to live our own message and meaning. So Strongbrook is one what to that why. If that resonates with you, I highly encourage you. Show up, look into it, get the app, come to a Limitless event, or come watch the free thing on Wednesday. Go to strongbrook.com/events. Find out what they can do for you in real estate. It's done for you. Because, frankly, they don't trust us anymore to do it on our own, because why would they? We're all consumer mindset. And frankly, I don't want to become an expert in real estate. I don't care. But I do want what it has to offer. I do want the stewardship of it. I do want to produce something of value for someone that also produces a return for myself. So that's the business we have. That's our message. And I encourage you to take a look at it if that resonates with you. And if not, great, but part as friends.
That's next Wednesday.
Yes. Yep, a week from tomorrow. So with that, do you want to come up, or do you want to go grab the ice? Yeah, you have Benjamin. Would you do me a favor?
Yes.
And run out into our garage?
What flavor?
New York Super Fudge Chunk.
Okay.
Thank you. So we have a little bit of a tradition. I'm mentioning the Ben & Jerry's. At the end of our Weekly Wise, we pull out a flavor that the presenter particularly enjoys. In this case, I understand, Mike, it's your wife that particularly loves this, chocolate and nuts. And we kind of like there are when a new tech toy comes out, they like to do videos of the unboxing and unwrapping it and seeing what's in it. We like to do that with the ice cream. So she's gonna go grab some pint for that real quick. To announce next week will be our last Weekly Wise for the year. We're taking December off, but we will do one more last week. And it's a special edition. We will not be here live in our home. We will be doing Strongbrook Live from Hawaii.
Weekly Wise from Hawaii.
Strongbrook Live. Thank you. Weekly Wise from Hawaii, because my wife and I will be enjoying ourselves, rappelling down waterfalls and doing all sorts of zip lines and crazy fun stuff like that. So, awesome.
It's not open.
That's perfect. That's what I would want. So, Mike, if you could come on up.
All right.
Do a little unboxing. New York Super Fudge Chunk is chocolate ice cream with white and dark fudge chunks, pecans, walnuts, and fudge-covered almonds. Think you'll like that?
I think so. How many calories in that bad boy?
Well, servings half a cup, and there's 4 servings of pint, and so 300 calories. So there's only 1,200.
Perfect, man.
Only 1,200 of the pint.
12 miles of running.
All right, and we like to show our viewers online too, so we can help persuade them to come live. Not next week, of course, but because if you come live, you get some of this. So with that, this is, well, I guess, for your wife, and you may take some for beforehand. So
Very kind.
thank you much, appreciate it, and we'll see you next week.